for the review of the meeting procedures. If everyone has picked up an agenda on the back, there's a copy of our meeting procedures. I'm not going to bother everyone to read all of that. I'll just go over some highlights. That the applicant shall have the opportunity to present the request to the Planning Commission. It is the responsibility of applicants to make presentations on requests and to address any conditions or factual findings with which they do not agree. Public hearings, we will have 2 public hearings tonight on ordinance amendments. Public comments on public hearings items will be limited to 30 minutes for each opposing side, with a maximum of 5 minutes allocated to each speaker. Site plans, and we do have 2 site plans this evening. Public comments on site plans will be limited to 60 minutes total per application, with a maximum of 5 minutes allocated to each speaker. And then the last thing, be respectful. We aren't here to start any fights or anything, so that's it for our meeting procedures, all right? First item of business is to approve the minutes of the regular Island Planning Commission meeting held on September 20th, 2022, subject to any necessary corrections.
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Patrick, I think that beat you to it, doesn't
What?
it? Any discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All in favor, please raise your hand.
I don't think I was there.
Okay, got one abstention. Thank you. Unanimous otherwise.
Mr. Chair, sorry, are we going to have the pledge and invocation, or?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I didn't,
It was,
did we change the order, or?
pardon?
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm sorry, somehow I just a minute. Please listen. If you would care to join us for the invocation of the Pledge of Allegiance, please stand.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day, and thank you for all the beautiful blessings you've bestowed upon us, Father. We're humbled to be able to call Glenn County our home in this state and our beautiful country, Father. And we ask you to bless us, hold us, strengthen us, Father, as we go through tonight's business. We ask you please bless the supporting staff, our residents that are here to participate, Father. Always keep in your blessings, Father, our first responders that protect us in our daily lives. It's these things we ask. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Apologize for that deletion. Thank you, Commissioner. I guess you should post it every now and then. First item, general business. We've approved the minutes. Public comment. This is for site plan approval. SP 5227, Frederica Academy Upper School Building Site Plan Approval. Consider site plan approval for construction of a new 5,546 square foot school building at 200 Murray Way, St. Simons Island. Parcel number 0401718. Property is located in the Frederica Academy Campus Plan Development District, ZM 1701. Brian Hunt, Roberts Civil Engineering Agent, for John Pope, Frederica Academy owner.
Commissioner Usher, I have to recuse myself for this one.
Thank you, Commissioner. Staff.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Commissioner. Stephanie Leaf, Community Development Department. This is SP 5227, the Frederica Academy Upper School Building, and they are constructing 546 square feet, and it is a 2-story building. This is the location on the island. And then this is the master plan for the site, showing the location. And then this is the site plan. So this is Murray Way here, and then Sea Island Road is, let's see, behind here. So this is an existing building on the site. This is kind of a open, common area, open space in front, and this is the new building. And this is the elevation, so 2-story is planned. And this is their proposed tree plan. They are planning to plant 2 trees on the site to meet the tree ordinance requirements. Just some information about the tree plan. And these are your possible motions. And Robert Civil Engineering, Mr. Hunt is here representing the applicant this evening.
I've got one question. This is a little unusual with the tree plan, is it not? We typically would have a fixed tree plan. Why is this one different in this case?
Sure. Yeah, this is. So what they've, what our county arborist had recommended was that the trees be, that the applicant would work with the county arborist for the location of the trees at a future time. So this is a little bit different than you typically see. Typically, the tree plan is pretty locked in. The only way that you could make changes to an approved tree plan is coming back through the site plan approval process, is how the ordinance currently reads. And so, this would allow them a little bit of flexibility on where the trees are planted on the site.
Okay, I guess my only concern is does this set some sort of precedent that we may regret in some future time? It's just a question. Mr. Attorney, you have any thoughts on that?
Mr. Chairman, each application is unique. You look at each one separately from the other. There's not really a sort of like res judicata or anything like that you have to, you always want to treat everyone fairly. I understand there may even be some question of interpretation in the ordinance. Our ordinance says if you are zoned commercial or industrial and you require a site plan, you have to get a tree plan. If you're zoned residential and you require a site plan, you have to get a tree plan. Well, we have a school here which doesn't really cleanly fit into the commercial or residential or industrial category, so it's a little bit of an open question whether they even require a tree plan. But I think this is what the arborist had recommended. Again, it's kind of a unique situation, and it's whatever y'all are most comfortable doing.
Well, I feel the applicant's going to do the right thing, and I'm just, it's more of a concern about the precedent it sets, to have a sort of an open-ended tree plan on the table. Your explanation that this is school, I doubt we'll have a lot of schools come before us, so maybe we can dodge the bullet if it ever comes up.
Mr. Chairman, it seems to me, though, that it makes kind of sense to have the county arborist to work with them to make sure the trees are placed in the right spot. And that might be something with this rezoning rewrite that could, help out. But,
Yeah,
I think the county arborist is going to do the right thing about tree placement. I
Right.
hope so.
right. Well, I don't disagree at all, and I think the applicant has shown that they will do the right thing. It's just more of an open question, I guess. Typically, you would have to work with the county arborist before the site plan is submitted, so that would happen anyway. But I understand. I think that's my only question with this though. Staff, does anyone else have any questions for staff? Would the applicant like to make a presentation, please?
Commissioners, Brian Hunt with Robert Civil Engineering, and it's a great question, Mr. Ursery. I think that's, our thought process on it is very much in line with the county attorney, whether or not we felt that we had to do a tree plan or not. Part of the requirements of the tree plan is that we have to dedicate open soil, which is an area that will then be set aside that undisturbed for the growth and maintenance of those trees. That open soil and the area and the amount of trees and the density and the tree calculations are all based on that parcel. We got enough trees on that property already that we could probably discount that we wouldn't have to plant any. We're not saying we don't want to plant any. What we're saying is we understand that just to meet the ordinance, if we had to meet the tree ordinance, we're going to plant that, which we will. We're going to plant 2 trees somewhere on that site that's going to be a best use of that site. To show it on this site plan, we're showing a very small portion of that entire parcel. Is the true tree going to be better suited somewhere else? We don't know yet, and that was kind of why we had to ask what we asked for. To show two trees on this site plan would have been simple. We could put a big circle around it, said 2 new planted trees, but they may not be in the best interest at this time because it may not be in the best spot for when this school gets built or this new building gets built. We want to be, it's going to be in a place that it would be better served for the school and the community that go there, so.
Anyone have any questions? I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, we do have applicants that have to come for us, and they have to figure out where their trees are going to go.
No, I agree with that, Mr. Urson.
Yeah, so,
We do it quite often, I understand, I think that, and that's the, again, you know, part of that, though, is if we got into the weeds on the amount of trees that we have, and then that reduces the amount of open soil that we have to calculate, like in a very small area, we could have done that and shown just 2 little trees somewhere. However, what we're saying, you know, instead of just pencil whipping this and making it just like now we've met the ordinance, what we're saying is we want to be able to have a little more time to be more thoughtful in it. We've wrote into it with the county arborist that the rule that he's going to have at his discretion, that he's going to have that ability to have an overriding say on it, so we don't just plant it in a ditch somewhere and it doesn't have any benefit. But we also want to do it in a way that is going to be more thoughtful as we long-term plan for this, just that generic area. 2 trees may be better suited by the football field. Maybe that's the area best for the trees, so.
So you've made the commitment to plant 2 trees?
Oh, we've absolutely made the commitment to plant 2 trees.
Okay.
To meet the ordinance, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I got one for Stephanie or Will. I sincerely believe they're gonna plant 2 trees, and it's, you know, not much to do to plant 2 trees, but in the case they didn't plant 2 trees, what is the county's response to that?
So we do require that the trees are planted prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy, so that'll be the
Okay.
holdup, is they
Thank
wouldn't
you.
get that before the trees are planted.
Any other questions for the applicant? We do invite comments and questions for anyone here that has a comment or a question. Please would come to the podium. Surely someone's got something to say. No? Okay, we'll close the comment period then. Commissioner, what's your pleasure?
I move to approve application SP 5227 as presented.
A second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please raise your hand. And we got 1 abstention. Next, is another site plan approval. SP 5182, Ocean Forest Cottages and Chiller Plant Site Plan Approval, 100 Ocean Road, Sea Island. Site plan approval. Consider site plan approval for a new 3-story condominium hotel room building. Chiller Plant and associated infrastructure located at 100 Ocean Road, Sea Island. Parcel number 0501148. Property is zoned resort residential and Beach and Dune District. Yates Anderson, agent for Sea Island Company, LLC, is the applicant. Okay, Stephanie?
Thank you. This is SP 5182 Ocean Forest Cottages site plan. And this is the location. This is on Sea Island. This is the Ocean Forest area. This is the Ocean Forest Country Club or the club. There was a building on this site that has been demolished, and so this is new construction they're proposing. So it is a 3-story condo hotel building, includes 6 condominium units and 4 hotel rooms. They're also including a chiller plant as part of this proposal. So a couple things with this, as I mentioned, they have received a demolition permit for the existing or previous structure. There's also a conditional use permit, case number CUP 5244, that is a companion application to this. They are showing a pool patio and native landscaping within the beach and dune development setback on the site. And in good faith, both the applicant did what they needed to do, as well as staff try to do the noticing to have that CUP on this agenda. The first time the hurricane came through and the noticing deadlines, the paper had closed, so we weren't able to publish the notice in the paper then. And then we tried for this meeting that we have as a special called, and we sent the notice to the paper, and the paper did not publish this particular notice. So we, an applicant, submitted everything they needed to do. So this conditional use permit will be on your November agenda. So just kind of keeping that in mind with the site plan. So the site plan does show those improvements in the development setback, but those improvements would not be able to be approved until the board approves that conditional use permit. So this is, they are showing some parking on the site, as there are site coverage requirements. And here's the elevations of the new structure. So the other elevations. And then these are the elevations for the chiller plant on the site. And this is the proposed site plan. So this is the new building, and then they are showing the pool in this location, and so this is the area that would be coming back before you for the conditional use permit. So just kind of zoomed in on the site plan because it's a lot of activity on this particular plan. And these are your possible motions. Staff has suggested a possible motion regarding, if you are inclined to approve this tonight, just regarding the conditional use permit, and just making sure that the site plan would not be valid for those improvements unless the CUP is approved. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and Wesley Franks is here representing the applicant tonight from Roberts Civil Engineering.
Any questions for staff?
Stephanie, or Will, can you refresh my memory as why there's no tree plan for this?
So Sea Island is exempt from the tree ordinance.
I guess,
Yeah.
I guess that's your answer. Anyone else have any questions?
I do, Mr. Chair, excuse me, Stephanie, I noticed there's some activity in the setback on the ocean side. Can you address that?
So there is, because the county had recently changed the ordinance, it used to be a 40-foot development setback. Now it's a 25-foot development setback, but they do have a portion of their pool patio and native landscaping they're showing within that setback. And that will come before you all in November as a conditional use permit. So that portion is not valid as approved on a site plan unless the county approves that.
I understand.
Yeah.
Any other questions for staff at this point? We ask the applicant if you'd like to make a presentation, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. Wesley Franks, Roberts Civil Engineering. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have on the site plan and request approval as presented with the condition of the CUP approval, hopefully next month.
Have any questions? Hearing none, I don't believe we have any questions at this point. Thank you. Again, we do invite public comment. If anyone has anything they would like to add or questions.
Hi, Jane Fraser. Can you tell us, Stephanie, how it is that Sea Island is exempt from the tree plan? I don't think that's, anyone who lives on Sea Island is aware of that.
Ms. Frazier, if you would, address your questions to me. And
Okay, sorry.
We got it.
Mr. Isery,
Oh, we got
you're
it.
the right person, too.
Yeah, we got it.
And then my next question is, how is the sewage going to be handled? I understood that it was in the septic field, and where are the drainage fields? Have you presented those? Can we see those? Okay.
Stephanie, could you help us?
Yes. So under the St. Simon's tree canopy ordinance, it is only St. Simon's that it covers. So Sea Island was exempt from the creation of that ordinance.
And that happened when I guess that last redo of their planned development at that time.
It's actually it's island-wide, yep. So it's every property on Sea Island, whether you're planned development or conventional zoning.
And what's the date of that?
It was 2018. It was the summer of 2018 when that passed.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
If I could clarify, I mean, to say they're exempt is one way of saying it. I think it's more accurate to say that the tree ordinance only applies to St. Simon's Island.
Right.
It's, in the same way you wouldn't say the mainland is exempt, it's just that it doesn't, it was only ever.
doesn't cover
applied to
it.
St. Simon's Island.
Yeah.
Okay. That,
It is called the St. Simon's Island Tree Canopy Ordinance.
Thank you. And the sewage.
Stephanie, could you help with
Yeah.
the sewage?
That, if I can ask Mr. Franks to address that, if he has
Thank you.
Okay.
some response on that.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The sewer is gonna be handled with a pump station. It's located kind of in the middle of your plan, so that'll be collected with a gravity system, flow to the pump station, and it pumps out to the main force main, on Sea Island Drive.
So no
Right.
septic.
No septic.
And as far as we know, there's capacity and all of that at the.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Any other comments? Anyone would like to add questions? Hearing none. Close the comment. Commission, please, what's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve application SB 5182 as presented.
Second.
I guess it's got that one.
I guess you got this.
Yes, sir.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. That was unanimous. Okay, these next items are public hearing items, zoning code amendments. TA 5262, Limited Industrial Zoning District Ordinance Amendment. Consider a county-initiated request to amend the Glenn County Zoning Ordinance Section 7182, Limited Industrial District, to add new permitted uses. Proposed uses are schools offering instruction in art, music, dance, drama, gymnastics, cheerleading, or similar physical activity, and gym or fitness studio. Ms. Lee, enlighten us on what this is about.
Yeah. So this ordinance, as well as the next, are proposed ordinances that were initiated by the Board of Commissioners. So this first one is related to the Limited Industrial Zoning District. There had been some interest from citizens in the community of operating gymnastics, cheerleading, fitness type studios in the Limited Industrial Zoning District. When those applications would come to us for occupational tax permits, we were not able to approve them because this zoning district did not allow those specific uses. So the Commission asked the county staff to draft a change to this. So these proposed uses that would be added would be school offering instruction in art, music, dance, drama, gymnastics, cheerleading, or similar cultural activity. And then the other one would be the added use of gym or fitness studio. And so these are the existing light industrial or limited industrial uses. And then this is also in your packet, but this is the proposed changes. And they're just as I listed out. So because this is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, this goes before the IPC. It'll also go before the MPC and then the Board of Commissioners for final approval. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you have any questions of Mr. Worley.
Any questions for staff? I've got one. Is there any particular industrial district that this is happening over and over again? Where the request has come up and we've had to tell them no?
A few years ago, it was also in the limited industrial zoning district on the mainland. There was a CrossFit gym that ended up going through the rezone process to amend to be a planned development in order to allow the CrossFit use. So, that's one I'm definitely aware of And so I think that's been the route that others have taken to allow this as a use. So,
But there's no particular, I mean, I'm trying to think of some of the industrial districts we have, on the mainland. There's no particular one that seems to be a place where people gravitate to.
no, I mean, what we hear is, because it's like higher ceilings, warehouse-style buildings that can accommodate, especially if it's, such as cheerleading where you're,
sure.
getting higher up in the air, you need those higher ceilings. So that's really what we hear is the business or the building types that you often find in those districts are appealing to these kind of uses.
So in some of these cases that we've had to say no, I guess there's existing buildings they would like to use, I see.
That's correct. Those are the ones that I'm aware of, that are existing buildings.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for staff? There is no applicant in this particular case. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to come and speak either for or against at this point, it doesn't appear we'll have a lot. But please state your name and tell us whether or not you're for this or against it.
So, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chair. My name is Kaylana Norris. I'm also very short. My name is Kaylana Norris, and I am the gym owner and program director of Firehouse Cheer Athletics. I've also probably been Miss Stephanie's biggest headache these last couple of months. A part of this revision to the limited zone industrial district also came from me. I've also tried, this would be my second go round. I tried in 2018 to do this at the same building that I also tried this year. Met with the same kind of discourse of the fact that there was no permitted use for what I'm trying to do. I've been in the all-star cheer world since 1997. It is my livelihood, and I'd love to bring that to Brunswick. I know there's already one cheer gym here, and I'd love to bring another one here. It's my passion, and if you guys have any questions or concerns, I would be more than happy to answer them. Concerning the district in which there are some, the same CrossFit gym, we are actually across the street from each other. They're Key Circle, I'm Key Drive. There are also some dance studios already there, but they also had to go through the rezoning process in order just to be in that area. But it works and it benefits us, and it's a safety thing for our athletes and our students in order to be able to have those types of ceiling heights, as Ms. Stephanie said before, the spacing for our kids to be able to function properly and be able to practice with them properly and train them properly.
Okay, thank you. I assume that you're for this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just want to say, I commend you for going through all this to see your passion through, to get zoning amendments made. It's incredible. Good on you.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
Anyone else would like to comment on this application, either for or against? Hearing none, I'll close the comment period. Commission?
I make a motion to recommend approval of the ordinance amendment as presented.
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, what, the applicant or one of the impacted potential businesses, I guess, mentioned they had been through this previous years. Do we understand what was the problem then, and why is it just now getting to this level?
I wasn't aware of the fire one, so.
Okay. I mean, may we invite her back?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Chair, do you mind if Ms. Stephanie goes back to the permitted uses for the zoning district?
There's 2 pages of that.
Oh,
It's on the second.
Yeah, I don't think we have a.
So the reason why there was an issue was because what I do in Glenn County standards falls under rendering a personal service. But in most people's businesses, even if you're a plumber or if you're a carpenter and you go to a person's house to fix something, you're rendering a personal service. The listings there for limited industrial did not include anything for a school of art or dance or drama. What it did include was a vocational school. And if you define a vocational school or something that you could receive a certification for, it states that you have to get paid. Like, is this a school that you'll benefit from, that you'll get paid? Like a CDL learning school, or what is it called? A welding school. So that was the reason why I got stopped the first go-round. Also, the business in which I'm doing is held on 3 parcels. 2 businesses are already located on that parcel, and my lovely, lovely landlord was like, we can't rezone, because then that would affect 2 of my other businesses on there. So the only thing that I could do was beg and plead to see if that we could add this to it, which, like I said, there are several businesses that are already there that have had to put thousands of dollars in just rezoning so they could be in that district.
Commissioner Duncan, is that answering your question?
Well, it went further, actually, but I was under the impression that you'd been to the well once before.
Yes, sir. It's same building, same zoning district, same
You
everything.
didn't get past occupational tax
Correct.
desk.
Yep, it was
Okay.
denied for the same reasoning. And this time, when we came back to it, it was kind of given more of a broader aspect, because I think we more hyper-focused on the cheer portion versus looking at the overall. There, like I said, there are CrossFit gyms, like Ms. Stephanie said. There are dance studios that are already there, and everyone could benefit from being in the limited industrial district. If there is a precautionary measure of hours of operation, most of these businesses, maybe outside of the CrossFit gym, are done after business hours. Mine is an after-school program activity. So I've gone on my street specifically because there are 4 other businesses within that general area, and I've spoken with every business owner and manager to let them know that, hey, this is something that I plan on pursuing. How do you feel about, kids being in this area, even though my parcel is gated? And one of the concerns was, well, it's busy. And so when I explained to them, you guys close at 4, we start practice at 4:30. 4:30 to 9:30. We're the only ones on that street at the end of the day. Those worries were lifted, and everyone else agreed that they had no problems with it.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's good that we got that out in the open, because that was one of my concerns. It's an industrial area. Some of you, I travel through that park quite often, and there are large trucks and vehicles, and,
Absolutely.
oh, okay. Well, good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Good.
Any further discussion? Stephanie, put up the motions for us.
Motion on the floor, isn't there?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a motion. Yeah, we've already got a motion. Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate. That is unanimous. Thank you. This is also a zoning amendment. TA 5263, Plan Development District Ordinance Amendment. Consideration of a county-initiated request to amend the Glenn County zoning ordinance, Section 723, Plan Development District, to outline procedures for amendments to a master plan, including establishment of procedures, criteria, and limits. Ms. Leaf?
Thank you. This is TA 5263. It's an amendment to the proposed amendment to the Plan Development District Ordinance. This was also requested by our county commission, initiated by the county commission. We have, it's a small number, but we have some master plans that were approved a number of years ago in the county, primarily on the mainland. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 on the island, so mostly this was on the mainland, that may have been approved 15, 20 years ago. The developers developed a first phase. The first phase ended up not being in compliance with the master plan. For quite a while, some of these older master plans were extremely detailed. I mean, they basically were preliminary plat, lots were laid out, common area allocated, and the way our plan development ordinance reads, any change to that requires a full revision to your master plan, which is the full rezone process. There isn't really a shortened process for that. So what we found was, this first phase was developed some years ago, and in the past few years, this development has been picking back up. New ownership for a lot of these parcels are coming in and requesting, a second or third phase, and we would look at it as staff and say, well, it doesn't match the master plan, you need to revise your master plan. And all of that would just take more time, for developers. And so our commission asked if there was something we could do to kind of help with these scenarios. We did some research on how many of these. It's approximately 20 throughout the county. It's not a large number. We have over 400 planned developments, so it's a small number compared to what we have throughout the county. So just a couple examples of where this has come to play, and these were ones that did have to revise their master plans. This is off of Highway 99 on the mainland. So this is what the master plan actually showed. This is actually what got built. So it's they had a series of ponds throughout the property. They ended up doing one large detention pond, and that was what was developed, not in compliance with master plans. They had to come in and revise it. Autumn's Wood, which is also on 99, was another example. Same scenario there. We also had this in Majestic Oaks, which is down at exit 29 on the mainland. They had a very detailed master plan. First phase was not in compliance with that. New owners came in and wanted to do something different, so they revised it. So what we took a look at was a few different options that could be put forth to achieve kind of an abbreviated way to change master plans in very specific circumstances, so very minor changes to the master plan. If uses and density were being proposed to be changed, that still had to go through the full rezone process. But smaller changes, potentially could be looked at differently. So the Board of Commissioners had a work session on this a few weeks ago on September 20th. And they directed staff to look at 3 different options. The first 2 were presented to them, and then they asked us to kind of come up with a third option for the planning commissions to consider. So the first option that's in your packet is that a master plan, meeting these changes, meeting very limited criteria, could be approved by the community development director. So it'd be a completely administrative approval process that the director would have full authorization to approve. Option 2 is the changes could be approved by the community development director, but the county manager would have to concur. So there would be kind of an additional sign-off by the county manager. The third option, and this is the one that during the September 20th meeting the commission asked us to come up with, was to have the Board of Commissioners still have the final say, but maybe not the full hearing process with the 2 public hearings that we typically have with rezones. And so, again, there would be, very specific changes, and there would only be 1 public hearing before the Board of Commissioners. They would not have a Planning Commission public hearing, so they would only have the Board of Commissioners public hearing. In all of these options, there has also been added a 30-day time frame where staff would have 30 days to make a determination on which process the PD amendment would need to follow. So if it doesn't meet the criteria for this kind of shortened process, then we would have to let the applicant know, okay, you need to apply for a full rezone process, and that is how you need to move forward.
Did you put the criteria?
That's coming up next. So that is in your packet as well. So I know it's kind of small here, but this is option 1, and then so I'll just kind of quickly that we have got option 2 and option 3 with the BOC hearing. So let me pull that up because I can't read that off the screen. Right? Yes, I will. Yes, it's also in the online packet.
So Commissioners, under all 3 versions of the ordinance, in order to be eligible for this different process, 3 things will have to be true. That a plat has been approved by Glenn County that does not conform to the master plan, that the construction plans based on that plat have also been approved by Glenn County, and construction in conformance with those construction plans have begun. So all 3 of those have to be true in order for you to be eligible to submit an application under all 3 of these processes. If that's the case, you submit your application to Community Development Department. They have 30 days to review it to make a determination as to whether you meet the criteria. And again, as Stephanie said earlier, the changes under these processes that are under this process that are limited to changes in street access or alignment, location of public or common areas, location of internal collector streets, or the location of access points to a public right-of-way. So, again, you have to have those, you have to meet those three criteria of a plat approved by the county that doesn't conform master plan, construction plans, and construction commencing, and then those changes are limited to what I just listed there. And again, the difference between the three options are community development director gets to approve it by themselves, concurrence with the county manager, or you go to the board of commissioners.
Right, so it's a very limited palette of changes that are possible with this process. Otherwise, they would have to go for the full meal deal, we'll call it, and take it back to us and eventually to the county commission for approval.
Correct.
And I guess this process does not necessarily change the development text. In other words, the development text, well, I guess for access, the development text may say something about access points. I'm trying to remember all the ones I've written. It seems like that's come up a time or two. But this doesn't necessarily address the development text itself, it's just the plan.
Just the master plan.
Yeah, and, you know, a little of my personal history, years ago, there was a time when the master plan was a very vague piece of work. It was more or less a bubble diagram. It just said, you know, it said subdivision, commercial, and then along with that went a concept plan. I know in recent times, the county has viewed the concept plan as the master plan, but that was never the intent. I know personal experience has been the case. And so what's happened, and I guess it happened in 2015, we had some changes to the zoning ordinance where the concept plan was omitted. We no longer require a concept plan. The master plan is much more detailed than it was previously in my years ago, I guess, at this point. Any questions?
I just have a comment. I just recently went through a rezoning with a piece of property that my family owns, and we would have given more detail on the master plan, but we were guided that to give as limited amount as possible because it would require this whole remaster planning of it if we deviated from the plan at all. So we kept it as sparse as possible on details, and I think this might actually get more details coming in for us to look at rather than what we currently have.
Right. Well, I know when we did, oh gosh, I guess Sam's Club Shopping Center, you know, I did that, and the master plan, the part, you know, the plan that was called the master plan was big square shopping
Right.
center.
That's what ours was, just the perimeter of the lot, of the whole property, and we would have put lot lines and roads on it, but we were told by the engineering firm if we moved a single road or lot line, we'd have to come back and do it all over again. And so we didn't want to do that, so we just left it a big, here's our master plan.
Yeah, well, the requirements in the ordinance for a master plan are set, and they do require to show major roads and things like that, and I guess there's a little bit of flexibility in that format. I don't know about your particular situation,
rezoning?
Michael. I mean, I can't.
It's been approved now, so.
Yeah, stop talking about it.
Yeah, it was only had last year, yeah.
Yeah, but that was a very small indication.
Very small piece, that's right.
Any other questions for staff on this item? Hearing none. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to make comments for or against this, Mr. Kilgore, please state your name.
Jeff Kilgore. And as you know, whenever I'm here at the lectern, I am asking you to follow your own ordinances, and that's what I'm here for tonight. I don't know how many of you know the history of the Island Planning Commission, how you came to be, but there was a movement to incorporate St. Simons Island, and as an appeasement, the Board of Commissioners offered to the people at that time that wanted to incorporate to have a separate planning commission for the island. And there were certain commitments made by that board to the people of St. Simons at that time, which you violated routinely. approving so many of the things that have been approved. But you're here and you asked to serve on the Planning Commission, and so I'm asking you to consider when you asked to serve, you were asking to represent the people of St. Simons, and you were asking to be involved in a compliance process that requires that you look at the ordinances and you hopefully ask that people adhere to the ordinances and the complete applications, which your, unfortunately, county staff has said to you more than once that they don't require, notwithstanding the fact the ordinance requires it. The staff does not require an application to be complete, nor does it require, do they require that it be in full compliance with the ordinances. You've heard that there's only 20 PD texts that are affected applications. So it's not that inconvenient for those developers to cure those 20 problems. I don't think you need to amend any ordinance, particularly in light of the fact that, as you've pointed out, Mr. Chairman, the slippery slope will take effect, as the county attorney has said, where there's projects been approved. Nobody addressed the fact that how did it get approved if it didn't comply? How is it that things are being developed that are not in compliance and you're being asked to cure this problem? So I think it needs to be in compliance. You need to know why the county staff's not doing code enforcement and out there looking at these developments to ensure that they are in compliance. If you approve this tonight, you create that slippery slope, because if I'm a developer, I'm going to start the project, I'm going to get the applications approved for land disturbance, building permit, and then I'm going to say, oh, by the way, I want to change the PD text. I want to come in and make these amendments because I'm not in compliance. I mean, this is ludicrous. So eventually, what you will have is you will have no ordinance. And I'm asking you to reject this on behalf of the people of St. Simons, who are entitled to know the people's business. They're entitled to know if there's a development next door. They're entitled to know if there's something that's not in compliance and it affects them and their property values. And I would ask that you strongly consider those people to whom you've pledged your service. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kilgore. Any questions for Mr. Kilgore? Anyone else?
Jane Fraser. Well, I'm not nearly as eloquent. So I'm going to state something that was written by the Founding Fathers. Turning things over for administrative approval without stringent criteria, turning it over to administrative approval without stringent criteria is too loose and too subjective for you to be able to judge. So you're leaving this decision up to staff, but without any stringent criteria. So that's certainly a problem. But if the biggest problem is that you're cutting the public out of the process. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. I think this applies in this case. This is taking the due process of allowing the citizens to know what you're doing, to allow them to know that there's been a master plan that wasn't in compliance and that they didn't get a fine for it. Not only did they not get fined, but you're trying to pass something that's going to make it easier for them to find themselves in compliance with no penalties at all for not being in compliance. So this, to me, is all about due process, and that is a federal constitutional issue to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frazier. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll let clerk.
Chair, you have, Ms. Lee, put the options back there. 3 different options.
Those are the possible actions, or you want?
No, the option, option 3, you require one public hearing by the Board of Commissioners and will not require planning commission. I'd like to make a motion that we approve PA 5263 as presented with option 3.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone have anything to say? I've got a couple things. Patrick, you want to go ahead?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to comment on some of the commentary we had, or witness comments we had previous. I think we've come a long way since PD Text were first created and managed and governed. I find it astounding that a PD Text and master plan can be approved, and yet that's not what was built, because that can happen today. It doesn't happen today. You can't lay the road out and get it approved unless it matches that site plan. So I don't think we're in the same environment of the examples that were used. So I'm not too fearful of modifying how we govern and provide oversight. And I would also just remind the citizen who spoke, by modifying our procedures does not say we're relinquishing any kind of oversight and citizen input. Our Board of Commissioners are the elected officials. We're appointed by those folks that are elected. We're simply one additional layer that was created a few years ago. And we're one of the few counties, I think maybe the only county in the state of Georgia, that has 2 planning commissions. So I'm not fearful that we are, shellacking over any kind of citizen input in the process. I think we've got more than most communities have. And if we're not happy, if you're not happy, you can always go to your Board of Commissioners. They are the elected individual. They are the people's input. We assist those commissioners. And anything we say or do is simply a recommendation anyway. So I just remind the community and those that might be watching online that we need to better understand the body that's been created in the planning commissions and our role. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
A couple of questions. Most of these that we're looking at, that of the 20, let's say, are residential subdivisions, are they not?
Correct.
Right. And so those subdivisions have gone through a preliminary plat process, have they not?
That's correct, they had.
Right. And so there was a process whereby our staff, and does the county commission approve preliminary plats?
So at that point in time, they would have, I think.
They approve a final plat.
15 years?
They approve a final plat.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think because a lot of these were like 15 to 20 years ago, so that was when preliminary plats would have come to the commissions, the planning commissions, though.
Yeah,
Planning commissions, yeah.
and I'm sure some of this latest confusion, especially with much older plan developments, has been that at a certain point in time, all of those issues that you have now weren't required back then, and so plans get developed that may have modified, I call it the concept plan, that was at the time was part of the application. So I understand that this is sort of a fix-it, but Will, do you see going forward that this is something that would come up from time to time, or is this gonna be it? Once we get through these 20, is this gonna be it? Or is this gonna be something that from time to time, we'll have to address a situation where somebody wants to modify? I guess what I'm saying is if I develop a master plan today, and I've got my plan, and I come back 5 years from now and say, you know, I've thought about that access road, it really needs to move, for whatever reason. You know, the county may have decided to do something with their road, which affects my road. This would be a way to change that, and I guess that could happen going forward, correct?
Well, I would think in the scenario you just laid out, you would have to go through the full process, because you would not have had a plat that's been approved, construction plans that have been approved, and construction that don't conform. So if you just decide you want to change your master plan for some reason, I don't like the street layouts that I put in there or something else, unless the county has approved a plat that doesn't conform to your master plan and issued you and approved your construction plans when you started construction. If you just decide you want to change it because you don't like it anymore, you still have to go through the full process. So this
Okay,
is
well, that's
only
what- that's what-
available.
Well,
Yeah.
that's my point, is that what we're looking at is plans that have already gone through a process, correct? That's not gonna come up a lot anymore. Or will it?
I think Stephanie probably knows that better than me. Again, you know, I think
I mean,
the problem that was presented to me was, like she said, there's a lot of these subdivisions that were approved 15, 20 years ago. They did phase 1. Now someone's ready to do phase 2 or phase 3, and they're coming in today in community development saying, hey, look, you know, this plat that was approved 15 years ago didn't conform to the master plan, and now your second phase isn't going to conform to your master plan because it's already been, you know.
Right, and I guess my second thought, what we'll call it, is that we aren't changing the use. In other words, our development text was one of the first questions I asked. We aren't changing uses, and so the issues with adjacent property owners, we may be moving some streets around, access points around, but we aren't going to take what was a residential place and suddenly put a commercial tract there or a shopping center. We're just moving houses around.
That's correct. Or streets around.
Yeah, streets around for houses, okay.
Why not list the 20?
Mr. Chairman, we've got a motion in a second.
Yeah, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
And Commissioners, just if I could, just for the record and clarity, option 3 is go to the Board of Commissioners for final approval, correct?
Correct. Right.
Mr. Chair,
Don't cut the public out.
Mr. Chair, thank you for fishing out that clarification. We're talking about rows and houses that might be shifting. And
Right.
I think in that context, you know, we're not changing anything materially.
Yeah,
The use is the same.
Right, and then, like I say, old master plans didn't even bother to put the roads on there.
Correct.
So it's so this is a relatively newer thing. It's I think the ordinance says it was modified in 2015. I don't know how many new subdivisions we've had since then, but so it's relatively new. At least in my career, I call that new. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That is unanimous. Thank you. Ordinance update, Stephanie, what's going on?
Sure. I think it's probably the same update I had last month. So our consultant is still working on the draft, but it's getting closer. So this is a second draft that will be based off of either the previous committee that did work as well as the other public input that we've had. So we're getting towards the end of that, so I anticipate most likely by the end of the month, very early November, we should have that out to the public.
So before the end of the year, we might see something?
Oh, yes, definitely before the end of the year, yes.
Stephanie, are they, like, as they rewrite, are they sending anything in to you guys, like, to take a look at? Or is what they give us, at, say, at the end of the month, gonna be the first time that anybody's laid eyes on it?
Yeah, so based off of what they had proposed was there would be an opportunity for staff to do some initial look at it. they would, look at a draft before it did go to the full public. And, we had done that initially the first time around to try to catch kind of some errors or anything that might pop up. So that's the plan this time around too.
Okay. But y'all haven't seen anything as of yet?
There has been something that has been submitted, I want to say just in the last couple of days.
Okay.
So I haven't looked at all of it, but yeah, we do have something that did get submitted for review by staff.
Yeah. I'm a little concerned about the process, but we'll see, I guess is my answer to
Out
that.
of our hands anyway.
Yeah, right. We've already stumbled once,
Always better than the last time.
yeah. All right, if there's nothing else,
Motion adjourned.
thank